Man, we are ready to rock and roll. Beautiful Thursday afternoon. Week 13 is upon us. A lot of people say this week is kind of, brush this kind of off, get ready for Thanksgiving weekend, rivalry weekend, or as we call it here at Pigskin Frenzy, Showdown Saturday. But no, I mean, this is not a week to just be, okay, let's just brush it off. There's some good games on this week with massive playoff implications. And we got a really good friend of ours to the show. Cole Thompson is going to be our guest picker. We cannot wait to have him on, and we're so pumped that he is here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Pop in your Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Pop in your Apple, share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. You know the drill, the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Ladies and gentlemen, man, we had him on before the season started. We really didn't pick a game, but I said, you know what? I got to get him back on as a guest picker, and we have him back on as a guest picker. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the co-host of SEC Unfiltered, the bear himself, Mr. Cole Thompson, infamous golf clap. Cole, what's going on, man? How are you?
Joel, I mean, buddy, it has been far too long since I've spoken to you. I'm glad to be back on the show. I'm excited. And here's the thing that I will tell everybody. Do not, in week 13, lose that gusto just because of it is what you don't consider an elite slate. You are the same people that complain and mope and cry and holler and have every single emotion for 9 months about not having college football on your television screens. This is not the week where I'm going to watch you say, hey, I can take it off because of it's just USC and Oregon. It's just Oklahoma and Missouri. I mean, Oklahoma just beat the crap out of Alabama. They're going to win that game. Like, this is not the week to go ahead and lay down and think that you have plans. Plans are meant for June. Plans are meant for May. Plans are not made for November. November is meant about sitting your happy keister on the couch, walking on in, and watching as there are a couple teams. Because there's a lot of things that can still go wrong for some programs in college football to where you think if they're in the playoff, they ain't in the playoff.
Absolutely. See? Thank you, Cole, for telling us that. Real quick before we get into college football talk, the last time we talked, we was a conversation about dry and wet heat. And I thought about that. How's the weather in Houston now? That's what I want to know.
So what's funny, dude, is that 2 days ago, I needed a jacket outside. It was 54 degrees, and there was a little bit of a wind chill, and I'm used to it. You know, my body, I have family from the East Coast. I go visit there all the time. My favorite hobby, actually, when I get the opportunity, is to go skiing. Like, I love skiing. Put me up in the mountains. If I could be a mountain man, I would, like, every single day of my life. So I'm I love the cold weather. Fast forward to Tuesday night, and I just let my dogs out to go to the bathroom. It was 81 degrees and it's 9:30. That's the differential. And then you wake up and you're covered in a sweat because if it's 78 degrees outside at 5:30 in the morning and you're trying to save money and energy, so it's hot inside the house. And what's funny though, Joel, is that in 2 weeks, it's going to drop down to 31. So, that is the beauty of where you live in Houston, Texas, is basically you have to prepare for all 4 seasons in a span of 4 days because you do not know if you're going to get sunny. You don't know if you're going to get wet. You don't know if you're going to get dry. You don't know if you're going to get cold. You don't know if you're going to get wind. You don't know anything, and that is where we are right now in the season. Like, in the summer, pure hot, pure hell. You're living on the third layer of the sun. Come November, December, you basically are planning an entire catalog of Neiman Marcus clothing, and that could be a span of a Tuesday afternoon. That's where we are.
So it's like a flip-flop. That's why people keep getting sick, man. That's literally why people keep getting colds, honestly. And for me, it's, what is it? I mean, I got 40-something degrees here in Illinois, so it's like crazy. That's why I'm wearing this, because it's insane. Guys, if you want to hear more meteorology talk, we'll probably get Cole back on the show for that later on. But look, let's
spend a full week on just meteorology around the country. And
exactly.
Why pants work in this division in April and why shorts work in November in Texas.
In Houston, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, week 12 was a doozy. Week 13 is going to be even a bigger doozy. We got a lot of games. But before we get into the ranking reactions, before we get into previewing predictions and the upset alerts, guys, we got to talk about what I talked about on Tuesday. More of the Lane Kiffin saga. Of course, we're going to talk about the Lane Kiffin saga. Where should he stay or should he go? The Clash wrote a beautiful song. Cole, I'm going to start with you on this. Where do you think all this is headed in your eyes? Do you think he stays? Do you think he should stay? What do you think?
I think that every single message board right now is lying to you. I think that everybody who is trying to come out and say, I know what's going on, is basically trying to get you to subscribe to their podcast, something like that. Like, that's just kind of the case. And that's not a shot at you, but, like, you don't know. Because I genuinely think right now Lane doesn't know. I think that he is still mulling over his options. And I think that this is a really big deal to him, that we're not looking at this from the human connection side. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, he sent his family down there because of, you know, he wants to make sure that they feel like they're locked in on going to Baton Rouge. They're locked in on going to Gainesville. I think his family is going to have a say in this decision. Like, I truly think that Layla and Knox will have a big-time say on if they're content, maybe him leaving or not. And if they're not content, I think that he will stay. What's really fun when it comes to Lane Kiffin is Lane has been this way his entire career. Like, the theatrics, the nonchalant attitude, the trolling mechanisms. This isn't something new that just happened when he got to Ole Miss. He was this way at Alabama, and he was this way when he was at USC, and he was this way when he was at Florida Atlantic, and he wasn't afraid to run his mouth. And so for Ole Miss fans who are really frustrated with how this thing is going on, I completely get it. You're allowed to be upset about this. But guys, this is who you hired 6 years ago. He hasn't changed. He's a 12-year-old in the body of a 48-year-old man. I mean, like that's what it is. So you kind of got to take and pick your battles with this, and part of the battle is letting him just be the most authentic version of himself, because the most authentic version of himself is the reason why you had your first 10-win regular season in program history. It's the reason why you had your first 11-win season in program history. It's the reason why you go into the college football playoff. It's the reason why you could be playing for your first SEC title. I think that Lane at this point has got to look at this in the perspective of two main elements. What do I want to be remembered for? And number two, what do I think is the best job? Because I can just tell you right now, Joel, in my humble opinion, I think the best job in college football when run properly is LSU. I believe that full-heartedly. Alabama is arguably the best job in college football. I think Ohio State is the best job in college football. I think when run properly, because the resources, because the fact that you have the entire state of Louisiana with 15 to 16 top 200 prospects, everybody in the state commits to the school, they don't commit to the coach. LSU is the best job in college football. I think Florida's a top 10 job in college football. I think that Ole Miss is a top 15 job in college football that's inching closer and closer to that top 10 range because of what Lane's been able to build. It does not matter what I think. It does not matter what you think. What matters is what Lane thinks. If Lane thinks the best job in college football is Ole Miss, he doesn't care about what you believe are the metrics that say LSU's better or Florida's better or Alabama. He believes Ole Miss is the best job, which is why he's taking it. If he believes Florida's the best job, that's why he's taking it. So he's got to be able to say, the best job in college football is calling me. Which one do I think is the best? That's number one. And the number two thing is, what is your legacy? Is it being able to build a program to new heights the way that Vince Dooley did and the way that Bear Bryant did and the way that we've seen Pete Carroll do it out at USC and what we have seen from multiple guys in Bo Schembechler and then Lloyd Carr and now what we watched with Jim Harbaugh out of Michigan, Woody Hayes out of Ohio State? Does he want to have a building named after him? Does he want to have it be Kiffin Field at Vaught Hemingway Stadium? Does he want the most popular boy name in the state of Mississippi to be Kiffin and the most popular girl name be Lane, spelled Layne, for the next decade? Like, are those things that care to him? Or does he want to be remembered for winning titles? Or does he want to be remembered for being a family man and going back to a place to where his dad loved, his wife graduated from, his father-in-law played for the football team, his idol is Steve Spurrier, it's somebody that he has kind of modeled his coaching charisma after? Is that what he wants to be remembered for? And that, I think, is what's going to be the deciding factor. Money's talking. I mean, we've seen reports. I can tell you on good measure, there is an offer on the table that nobody in the country can match when it comes to LSU. Ole Miss is going to throw him a lot of money to keep him around. There is an offer to where they cannot match what LSU has. And that's just the case. So Lane would be leaving a lot of money on the table. There's a lot of things that Florida are going to be willing to offer him if he takes the job. I personally, at this point, think he is going to stay at Ole Miss. I think at this point, gun to head, it's part of the charade of what makes Lane Kiffin Lane Kiffin. And that is why he is going to stick around. And the other thing that's really important here, Joel, is like, keep in mind, Scott Strickland was on record saying, I will never hire Lane Kiffin. He's not even a name that I will consider for the job. LSU could have hired him from Ole Miss before they hired Brian Kelly. And he was a name that was getting looked at. Wasn't at the top of the list, wasn't even in like the top 2 or 3, but he could have been hired. How funny would it be if he is now leading both of them on, like the girl that was ignored throughout all of middle school, and then she goes away for the summer, and she looks really hot when she comes back, and she picks apart the 2 bullies, and ends up sticking with her nerdy best friend as being the hero at the end of the story. Like, I could see that. Because if I don't want to be a second choice to anybody. I was your second choice. You went with Sunbelt Billy before me. How dare you? You went with Brian Kelly, with Foghorn Leghorn coming on down from Boston, and saying that he's a good fit, and I'm not. Like, I could see that. But I think that at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to change the way that people look at Ole Miss football for the long term and the way that they look at you for the long term. In the college football storybook, if you stay at Ole Miss. And the funny thing is, you will always be another name at LSU. You will always be another name at Florida. You will. You just always will. You will be the name at Ole Miss that everyone remembers. Because I already think he's the greatest coach in Ole Miss history in 6 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. My drop right there. My drop. I'm with you. I'm starting to lean towards him staying at Ole Miss. But would it shock me if he left for LSU or Florida?
Not even a little bit.
No, I don't think it would shock me at all. I said it on Tuesday. I don't think anything would shock me at this point. Not really. Not when it comes to Lane Kiffin. No, just knowing how he is and knowing how his demeanor is and how he's acted his whole career. Yeah, nothing's changed. I don't believe. I think he would definitely, and he's looking, and I know he's hearing all the stuff. He's hearing the offers. I understand that. I think he stays at Ole Miss. I think this all could be a ploy. Yes. It also wouldn't shock me if it wasn't, and he ends up taking one of those jobs. But
no, and nobody can fault him either. Like the thing, Joel, that like is really bothersome to me is like you see all these Florida fans like, why would you want to go hang out with Governor Landry? Why would you want to go hang out with all these people? Because LSU wins national titles. They've had 3 of their last 4 head coaches win national titles. That's what you do when you go down to Baton Rouge. You have recruiting assets that are completely in your favor. Why do you want to go to Florida? Why? I mean, they just hired. So you're not going to be able to get to Spurrier level. Okay, watch me do it. Like just watch me do it, and then I will, and then I'll be in the same level as Urban. I'll be in the same level as Spurrier. That's great. Like, my family's from there. No state income tax. I don't fault him for that. But the funny thing is, you don't hear enough people, I think, in the national level say, why stay at Ole Miss? Why stay at Ole Miss? Because I will be revered in the state of Mississippi for the rest of my life. Like, why stay at Ole Miss? Because of, look at what I built. Look at what I'm going to continue to build. Like, there's not a wrong answer here when it comes for Lane. The only problem is that 2 teams are going to be heartbroken and chaos is going to occur in either Oxford, Gainesville, and Baton Rouge. One of them is not going to get it, and anarchy is going to happen in the other 2. That's really what this comes down to.
This may be okay, Joel, why would you ask this question?
I love those questions.
Do you think if he does leave, if he leaves, would you think, or would you even consider, if you were Keith Carter, all right, let's just keep him until after the playoff? Would you even consider that?
Ooh, no. And and like it's weird because of partially yes. Like the guy in me who looks at leadership and looks at what Lane Kiffin has been able to build and how he there are 2 truths here. Like, Lane is a dude who has built Ole Miss up to a level of where it is now viewed as a premier job in college football, or a premier-esque job in college football. It's gone from being a C-level job to probably a B+, A-. Like, he's done that. But Lane also needed Ole Miss because Ole Miss needed to go ahead and make a splash hire, but somebody who they figured was damaged goods that was going to be locked into the job. And at the time, he still was coming on in from Boca Raton for Florida Atlantic. So it's like, yeah, they both need each other, and they both benefit off each other. So if you both benefit off each other, Lane should be allowed to see the fruits of his labor come to a finish because you're here because of Lane and the players that he brought in. But at the same time, here's the problem, Joel, and this is what nobody else is talking about. The college football calendar sucks. It's so terrible. It's because if Lane had it his way, and I think if Keith Carter had it his way, Even if they knew they were parting ways, they'd stay together through the end. But here's the problem. Let's say Florida and LSU are very patient, waiting for him to go ahead and come down to Gainesville or Baton Rouge. Let's say they are. Well, they have early signing period. And it may be announced that Lane is going, but you don't know if he's actually going to go there. And he can't technically recruit until he leaves his other job. So he's trying to build a staff over there. Recruits are saying, hey, you know what? I just can't trust the situation going on. I'm decommitting. I'm going to another school. So early signing period passes. And they got the transfer portal window opening on up. And Ole Miss is now running, and they're in the semifinals. And now transfer portal window's open. Okay, I'm a 5-star wide receiver that's getting offers from every school out there. I got to meet with my new head coach. What does he think of me? What does he want me? Well, he can't get there to talk to you because he's coaching to potentially take his team down to Miami. So, okay, I got to enter the portal. So, hurt your team in that standpoint. But then on the flip side, Ole Miss is, I think, again, it's become a job that went from being probably top 30 in college football, I think, to top 15. Like, Lane's been able to do that. Well, Keith Carter probably has a name of candidates that he's already vetted and said, I want you, and you. I think that you guys are perfect to go ahead and be replacing Lane Kiffin. Well, you can't interview them if there's not a job open. I mean, if there's not a job that's actually available because Lane's still coaching, you can't interview them. So If you can't interview them, John Summerall, I'll just tell you right now, John Summerall, in my opinion, is going to be the first and only phone call Keith Carter should and have to make if all goes according to plan. But he's going to get a phone call from Auburn, and he's going to get a phone call from Arkansas. And there are several jobs that I continuously hear about that are potentially going to open on up that he is going to hear from. So if they open on up and you don't have an opening right now, you're risking not being able to bring in the coach that you think can take your team to that next level. Meanwhile, you're kind of screwed at this standpoint. So nobody wins here unless you win the national title and then you go out in a blaze of glory in both stands. So it's like, Keith has to make the ultimate decision what is best for the program that he is sticking with while Lane is leaving you. And I think that's what this comes down to.
It's a dilemma, man. It is a dilemma. What's going on right now? And it can give you a headache a little bit. It can give you a headache, especially with when you're like us, like texting people and talking to people like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? And you're hearing it from all sides and angles. It's chaotic. It really can be. You know what's also chaotic? The playoff rankings. That was chaotic. And we're going to get your ranking reactions right now as we move on to our college football talk. That was chaotic to me. Let's start with your ranking reactions. Are there any moves that surprised you or, not really?
The Alabama falling 6 spots is a little intriguing to me. I'm not saying I get it because I don't. But I've also believed this theory for a while. It is so much better to lose early than lose late. Because of what the committee is going to also take into advantage and into at least consideranship is, hey, they're on a 10-game, like the Notre Dame Alabama thing is what most people are talking about. Notre Dame is going to close out the year on a 10-game winning streak. Notre Dame is playing its best version of football going into the playoff. And Alabama stubbed its toe in November. They don't care about the 4 ranked wins, which is the most in a single month by an SEC team. They don't care about the point differential. They don't care that you went to Athens, Georgia, and you beat up on Kirby Smart. They don't care that you were able to have a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. They don't care about any of that. They care about how you looked right before the committee. So partially, I've always been a believer of, listen, you can drop a game in week 1 or week 3, but if you drop a game in week 11, all bets are off. Like, all bets are off. And that's where I think that you were kind of looking at it. Because Oklahoma, they weren't at 9, they were at 8 because they've been playing their best football since the playoff committee has started to unveil their votes. So that's a big deal to them, in my opinion. Which, again, I think is that's something that does matter in their standpoint. So I get that one. What I find really interesting is that we're going to be in a scenario, Joel, this year where 10-2 is not good enough to get to the playoff. Like, I'm looking at Oregon and USC this weekend. And I think that Oregon is probably a top 10 team in college football. But name their signature win. What is it? Is it Penn State in double overtime where you beat up on a team that 2 weeks later fired its coach? Is that your signature win? Well, Hunter Yurachek and the committee said, yeah, that's why they're ranked higher than everyone else, because of that signature win means something to them. Okay, what am I going to remember if you lose to USC? I'm going to remember your signature losses, not your signature wins. And so they may be 10-2, but they don't have a signature win. USC does. They're out of the playoff. because you still got to worry about what's going on with Utah. You still got to worry about what's going on with BYU. You still got to worry about what's going on with Vanderbilt. You still got to worry with what's going on with all these teams. So 10-2 just does not guarantee a playoff spot this year like it did last season. So that was something that I noticed. And then the other thing I thought was really interesting for Bama fans, and this is where I want my Bama fans to listen to me on this one. You may be complaining like all hell. You may be hooping and hollering and saying the committee hates us. That we're damaged. We're like, how dare you hate upon us? I look at their pathway to the national championship. I say it's easier than ever. Right now, they play Oregon on the road. They play Indiana. They play either Ole Miss, Texas A&M, or Miami. I think they could win all 3 games. Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I think that where they sit, it seems like you lost. You might have won. Like, you quite literally might have won if you figure out your offensive faults. You might have ended up winning this whole shindig.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, what I got from out of everything for the playoff rankings, just don't lose. Just try your best not to lose. Literally, just don't lose. It's hard to go undefeated. I mean, I know A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State are doing it right now, but it's hard. It's really hard just to not lose. Man, losses are mattering this year. I'm going to tell you that now. I think Texas is mine. And I'm going to tell you why. I think Texas is solid. Can I be real, man? I can't say anything because it may be a potential Pigskin game next week. But I'm going to sit here and say I don't think Texas is going to get back in. I just
Texas
don't see
is
it.
Done.
Yeah, I don't see why they're number. I don't see why they're 17. I think there's in my frenzy rankings, I had them at 25.
Okay.
I had them at 25. I dropped them way lower than the playoff rankings did. I just don't think they're in it. And I think there's this notion with that maybe with a close win against A&M, what's going to happen there. I feel like that spot right there is created for this notion of what if. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, it's what if they can beat A&M coming up next week.
I'll just put that to rest. They dropped 7 spots. Every team can still win ahead of them. And then Michigan can still win, and they may jump them because they have a better win over Ohio State.
Yeah.
So they're out, in my opinion. And here's the reason why. The committee showed you 2 weeks ago they will reward you for playing tough non-conference games. Because Texas, with a non-conference loss to Ohio State in week 1, was good enough to get them back into the top 10.
Yeah.
They're also going to penalize you for looking terrible on television. They dropped them 7 spots.
Yeah.
They looked awful against Georgia. I mean, there was no life offensively. They went away from the run game. They were so careless with their penalties. They had the constant shooting themselves in the foot. And, like, it really bothers me, and I get it. You got to say what you got to say to go ahead and appease the peanut gallery. But it really bothers me when coaches are like, oh, yeah, it was close. No, the score was close. Game wasn't close at all. Like game was never close. Going into that fourth quarter, never once felt like Georgia was in jeopardy of losing. It wasn't like a moment of, oh, this is where it's going to turn off. Nope. It was like, nope, Georgia's going to have to find a way to screw it on out.
Yeah, I picked Georgia. Yeah, I picked Georgia to win by double digits. So
yeah, so when you lose that badly, 25 points, they're going to penalize you because it's not just about looking great, and it's not just about scheduling tough games. You got to look the part in those games too, and if you don't, bye. That's what we saw. So I think Texas is out. I don't think that they're going to be a program that will fall off the face of the earth and that they won't make a run to the playoff. And trust me, when you look at some of the other teams that we all said were playoff bound and how bad their seasons have gone, it's actually, Texas still looks pretty decent, in the public eye. Not elite, but they still look pretty decent because they ain't Penn State, it ain't LSU, it ain't Clemson by any means. But still, it's a disappointing season. You got some stuff to work on this offseason. That's just bottom line.
Absolutely. Especially O-line play.
Yeah.
Now, one more before we go our upset alerts and before we go to our preview and predictions. Because you mentioned USC and Oregon. That's going to be a good one. That's our Pigskin game for this week. Let's talk about Michigan really quick. I think Michigan's very interesting where they're at. Because I think Saturday with USC and Oregon may play into what Michigan can accomplish throughout the rest of the year, right? I feel like if USC loses, that puts Michigan right back in it. So
I think so.
Yeah, and they just got to win out, and they will have the best win, technically on paper, at least the best win out of everybody, which is next week they beat Ohio State for a 5th straight year. So, what do you think about Michigan?
They don't feel like a playoff team, but just because you don't feel like a playoff team doesn't mean you're not one. I will be completely honest, and I pissed off a lot of people last year with this take. I didn't think at 10-2, Tennessee was a better playoff team than South Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss. But Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina were 9-3, and Alabama lost head-to-head to Tennessee, and they were 10-2, and so Tennessee made the playoff. I don't think that Michigan is built to be a good playoff team. I think that there are still far too many faults when it comes to their offensive personnel. They looked lost in the second half against Northwestern last week. They are putting a lot of pressure on Bryce Underwood, which, again, he does have a lot to work with, and he's making the most of it. But they just lost their star running back in Justice Haynes for the rest of the regular season. He could be out for the entire playoff, too. They don't feel like a playoff team. But it doesn't matter if they feel like a playoff team. What matters is, do they have the wins and the resume to be a playoff team? And if you beat Ohio State, and if you go 10-2, and you have one conference loss, because remember yourself, Joel, they would have one conference loss. And you also got to remember this part. If they beat Ohio State, they're in the running to go play in Indianapolis against Indiana for the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
Are you going to leave the Big Ten runner-up out of the college football playoff? I don't think so. Yeah. Even if they're 10-3 and you throw them in the 11th spot. So there's a lot of things that happen. I can't say that I think that Ohio State's going to win this year, because I've said it forever, and then Michigan wins the game, and Michigan shows on up. But I also think that this is going to be a moot point in about 2 weeks. But until it isn't, it isn't. Like, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I thought about Michigan. I was like, interesting. So I was like, chin scratcher, interesting.
They have a lot of power in
they really
this
do.
whole playoff thing. They really do. Like I look at Vanderbilt. And Joel, I may or may not have prayed to several of my patron saints and people out there that love college football. And I know that they're watching down every single Saturday, not just on me and my family, but also on my sweet, sweet, sweet Baba Yaga demon Diego Pavia and company. And I pray that he will go to the college football playoff. There's a ceiling there right now. Like there is a really big ceiling to where they're going to be the first team out. Like, if Michigan goes and they beat Ohio State, they're jumping Vanderbilt, they're jumping BYU, they're jumping Utah, they're jumping everybody. So it's like, they control a lot of weight in this thing, and I do think that there's a possibility a possibility that they don't want to have 5 SEC teams in. Here's the way to do that: Michigan wins out, Michigan 10-2, 4-4. Because I don't think that you can leave out the Big Ten champion, and you're not leaving out Oregon. I think it's at 11-1. I just don't see a scenario where you are. Now, they still have to play against Washington. Let's not forget about that one. They still have a game against Washington to close out the year. Washington's a scrappy team. You're not leaving out Ohio State. You can't go 11-0 and then lose that game and be like, oh no, now you're done. Yeah. And you can't leave out Indiana. So the odd man out may end up either being, and here's a really interesting one. The odd man out may be Alabama, or it may be Notre Dame. And I know a lot of people are like, really? Notre Dame 10-game win should close out the year? Do you really want the committee to go ahead and send a message about how head-to-heads matter and how scheduling matters? Miami's not in the playoff. You lost to Miami. That team's 10-2, and they had to go play in the conference schedule. Bye. That's a good way to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. And by the way, I do think that Notre Dame right now is playing like a top 10 team in college football. I will be the first to say that. I'm just saying, if you want to see a way for them to send a message, bye. Play in a conference. Play 9 conference games. Because Michigan did. Michigan did, and they lost 1. They lost 1. And we're not kicking out Oklahoma because they beat them head-to-head.
Well played. See? Well played. Golf clap again.
Beautiful college football, man.
Beautiful conversation that we're having about college football. We will see more ranking react. We'll have more ranking reactions. We'll have more playoff conversation talk, on another episode. But man, I'm gonna tell you something. Saturday could be an upset alert Saturday, and I want to know who is on upset alert for Week 13 in your eyes. There's some games, man. There are some games, and it could happen. A lot of people, like you said before the show started, a lot of people need to pay attention. So I'm gonna start with you, man.
Do you count? Let me ask you: would you count Oregon and Ohio? I mean, Oregon and USC an upset? Because I personally don't.
Probably not, and it's a pigskin game too. So,
I don't know if it will, but at the same time, I expect the unexpected in college football. I think Oklahoma still has to worry about Missouri. I do. Ahmad Hardy ran for 300 yards last week against not a great, but not a terrible defense in Mississippi State. Like Coleman Hutzler, he's lost his mojo from that week 1 and that week 3 and that week 5 matchup, but not a terrible team. I think that's a team that you have to watch for. If Ahmad Hardy is able to run rampant up and down the field and they can just play that game, they may end up having to worry about, hey, John Mateer, we need to see some fireworks on the offense. Like, our defense can do so much, but if we can't slow him down, it's got to be a back-to-back battle when it comes to offensive personnel. And, like, I think that there's two truths to every situation. There's also a reality. Oklahoma has gotten better offensively. Like, I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, well, they can't run the football. Really? Because they had 4 straight weeks with a 100-yard rusher. They don't have a legit number 1 wide receiver. Okay, well, they do because Isaiah Satenga was averaging 85 yards per game. But then you see them play against Alabama, and the offense does just barely... Like the way that I viewed the offense in that game, it was like a waiter trying to guarantee he could survive off of what he had in his bank account until the next payday. Like, they were scourging for, like, food and for, like, resources. Like, they were going and getting great value ramen noodles and then Vienna sausages, and they were taking some old sauce that they found from their roommate who moved out 2 years ago and, like, dousing it in, and they were making, like, a gourmet meal to kind of survive. Like, that was what the offense was doing, just to give their defense enough time to regroup, reassess, and then go back out there and shut down Alabama. If that offense doesn't show on up, then unfortunately, Mizzou may just need to go ahead and trust Ahmad Hardy to win them the football game as he tries to win the Doak Walker. So I would say that that's probably one. If I were to give another, I don't know why, but I just think that the Kansas State-Utah game is really, really interesting. At the start of the year, this was one where I was like, I could see Kyle Whittingham being like a game away from an undefeated season or maybe even being a lock to go to Arlington, and he's got to find a way to mess things up. Like, he's just got to find... And what's interesting is that I still see a scenario where there are 2 Big 12 teams that get into the college football playoff. Partially, what's going to have to happen is either BYU is going to have to beat Texas Tech or Utah is going to have to beat Texas Tech. I think that BYU can lose another game. I really do. But I wouldn't be shocked by it. I would be a little shocked when it comes to Kansas State. They lost Austin Romine, their star linebacker. They've lost Dylan Edwards. He's out for the year because he's entering the transfer portal. Still some questions offensively overall. Just a lot of things that I don't like about this team. But it's Chris Kleinman. I respect Chris Kleinman. I think that he's one of the more underappreciated coaches. They're 5-5. There's an opportunity for them to be a bowl eligible this year. If they don't win this one, they have to beat Colorado next week, which, again, easier said than done. I mean, a lot easier said than done, but probably can. It's one of those things where it feels like everything is lining up for them to have another 7-5 season.
Good. See, that's good. See, Kansas State and Utah, I didn't think about that one. Here's what I did think about, though. SMU and Louisville. SMU is a favorite in that game, I believe. I think they're for last time I checked, 2.5-point favorite in that ball game. Yeah, 2.5-point favorite. I think Louisville, they did play. They shot themselves in the foot against Clemson. Yes. I think they can have a bounce-back game in this one. Even though it's on the road, going to be tough, I think there's a world where Louisville can upset SMU on Saturday. Another one for me is, I would think, TCU and Houston.
Yeah.
I can see that happening as well. Even though I like Houston. Look, I said during the preseason that Willie Fritz has got a lot of stuff going down in Houston. Doing great things. Man, I didn't expect it to be this early, but I do think there's a way or a scenario where I could see TCU sneaking up on Houston and winning that game. Another one, and you may like this one. Tennessee and Florida. Tennessee's 3.5-point favorite. They're in Gainesville, night game. Their history is not the best in Gainesville. And I think that is where I am kind of fuzzy. I know it's Florida, and it's like, look how they played against, Kentucky. Yeah, look how they played against Ole Miss a little, in the majority of the game before, like, the fourth quarter. Look how they play. They played Ole Miss pretty hard. And I know the scenario behind it and the situation behind it. I get it. With Lane Kiffin and all that stuff, yeah. But this is a little bit different. I think Tennessee and in Florida, the history there with Tennessee kind of not having good luck really in Gainesville, I think that could play into effect on Saturday night. I'm not picking Florida to win. I'm not yet. I just think Tennessee's a little bit different this year, maybe. And with Josh Heupel, yeah, but it's giving me upset alert vibes, man. It really is.
Okay. The reason I didn't pick Tennessee and Florida is because for me, I don't think it's an upset.
Really?
I say this because of, yes, the spread would say it's an upset. The number attached to one team would say it's an upset. Brother, can you tell me the last time that Tennessee won in the Swamp?
Look it up, because now I gotta think of the date right now. But go ahead, keep talking as I'm looking it up.
I believe I'm not mistaken, it is 2004.
2004.
They have not won in the Swamp in 20 years. It's like, we talked about this. Everyone has had a problem in the SEC. Everyone has a problem. Alabama has an Oklahoma problem. Georgia has an Alabama problem. Georgia has an Alabama problem. Texas has a Georgia problem. Ole Miss has a get in their own way problem. Everyone has a problem. Tennessee's problem is winning against Florida, but only in the Swamp. They can win this game when they play anywhere else. They can't win this game when they play in the Swamp. They've had better rosters. They've had far superior rosters. They still lose. They've had better quarterbacks. They still lose. Florida has been downright dirty bad. They still lose.
September 20th, 2003 was the last time.
Again, we're pushing 25 years. We are pushing a quarter of a century since the last time they won. So I understand why it's an upset. But for those of us that have grown up and saw the last time that Tennessee actually won in Gainesville and remember it, it's not an upset because it happens every year. It's like death taxes, insert volunteers quarterback that's going to get molly-whopped against this team on Saturday. That's what it is.
Yeah, and the thing is, you could be right on that. I'm doing an upset alert because of the spread, technically, yeah. I was literally in diapers the last time that game was. I was 3 the last time that happened, which is crazy to think about. But, man, it's I don't know. I'm with you on that one. That could go either way. I was going to make a joke and say Arkansas and Texas, but I won't say anything there. I think Texas is going to win the game. I think Texas is going to win the game. Those are really my upsets. Other than that, maybe Kansas and Iowa State could be one. Kansas can upset Iowa State, maybe. I could see it. But overall, I think we're down to what you said. I think we got Mizzou and OU as a Pigskin game here in a little bit, so I think that could be a strong one as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with you. I don't know why, and I've heard multiple people talk about this. Pate's brought this up multiple times too. Miami to close out the year was always really intriguing to me. It just was. You haven't really left the state outside of one time.
Yeah.
Since you left to go to SMU. And then you close out the year with Virginia Tech on the road and Pitt on the road. Now, I'm not saying that either one of those games you shouldn't be favored in, but it's a lot different playing in Blacksburg, Virginia on a November afternoon that gets dark at 4:30 and at Pitt. It's a lot different. It's very much a unique experience. So if you want to end just the Miami conversation, because I get it, and there's people that sit here, and I'm one of them. I hate that I'm this guy, but I'm one of them. I believe head-to-heads have to matter at some point because of the hypothetical BS. I've heard from people all the time. Well, if Ole Miss played Texas, right? But they don't play Texas. They just don't. So, or if BYU played right, but they don't play them. But I've seen what happens when these two teams play against each other. And yeah, one of them has gotten a lot better. And if you told me that they played 10 more times, I'd probably take Notre Dame to win 7. Didn't matter. That Saturday night or that Sunday night in that standpoint, it didn't matter. Miami won the game. So, like, you want to end that narrative and be like, yeah, no questions asked. Notre Dame's a better team. Notre Dame's been more efficient. Notre Dame belongs in the playoff over Miami. Don't have the same record. If you have and by the way, I'm sure I start there. If you have the same record, the head-to-head has to count. Like it just does, because it counts for everybody else. Don't have the same record, head-to-head doesn't matter anymore. Take it on out. Like, I got people in my comment section saying, so your logic is Florida State should be better than Alabama. If Florida State and Alabama had the same record, yeah, I would rank Florida State over Alabama every time.
Are you? And we're about to get into our preview predictions to wrap up the show, but are you putting Miami on upset alert this weekend?
No.
No.
No. Listen,
you're just hesitant.
Here's the thing. What a way for the James Franklin era to start on off. Their new head coach being in the building, them trying to go ahead and end their season on a high and show him, hey, listen, we're here to play for you. We want to show you what you're signing up for. What a way to start off the James Franklin era is like the new players that are like going to be playing for him next year. They go out and they beat a top 15 team. I think that'd be good. If I'm going to add one more, it would be Cincinnati and BYU. Like I just think that there's a level of BYU that I still don't trust. And I know I'm the worst. Believe me, I've had many a BYU fan tell me how bad I am because I just refuse to believe in them. I think that Cincinnati is playing a little bit angry because they feel like they probably should have won last week against Arizona. They dropped that game. And the other thing is that if I'm going to talk about the SEC being so deep when it comes to the mid-level teams versus the top-tier teams, the second that feels that way is the Big 12. There's not a big drop-off. I mean, and by the way, there's always a team that we never talk about in the preseason that skyrockets to the top of the rankings. Hello, Houston. There's always a team that we talk about nonstop when it comes to the preseason rankings that plummets. Hello, Kansas State. I mean, that's what it is. So it's like anything can happen, I think, in the Big 12. It is my favorite conference in college football to simply watch because of it's always crazy. It's always chaotic.
That is our week 13 upset alerts. Man, and you're right. It is always chaotic. Big 12, you just never know what's going to happen. You really don't. It's just unpredictable. Week 13 preview predictions we're going to wrap up. And it's funny that you mentioned that game because BYU and Cincinnati game, that is a pigskin game this week. BYU at Cincinnati. BYU's 9-1, Cincinnati's 7-3. I think the spread, as far as I know, I think it was like a touchdown favorite? 54.5? Yeah.
54.5, 2.5 in favor of BYU.
The last time I checked, it opened up. It was like 4 or 5.5, but I guess it lowered.
Moved down. Yeah.
Starting to move down. All right. What's your analysis on this game, man? Who do you got? You think the spread is too low? I'm going to ask on that one. You think the spread's too low in this one?
Well, okay, the game's in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is a home underdog. So, no, because of what you're saying is that if this was being played at BYU, it'd probably be a 6.5, 7-point game.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's fine because if you're taking in the home atmosphere, somewhat of a cross-country trip, you're going over to Ohio versus staying in Provo. Can we see Bear Bachmeier actually win the football game through the air? I think is my big question. Now, he's done some really good things this year. Like, he really has. And we got to give a lot of credit to this defense. Like, Kalai Taki's put together an exceptional defense. Last week, he started to really turn the corner. He had 296 passing yards. He had, if I'm not mistaken, just one touchdown pass. He's had some games this year where you've asked him to throw. The West Virginia game, he threw for 351. He threw for 307 in the matchup against Iowa State. He has shown some things. Can he win you a football game through the air? Like, they take away the ground game and make that happen. I think on the flip side, can you slow down whatever is this rushing attack that BYU has? Because it is good. It's one of the best in the country. Can you slow down this rushing attack, whether it be with LJ Martin or Bear Bachmeier? Because they combined for 17 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, on the ground and like 6 yards a carry. Can you make them a one-dimensional offense? If you do that, I think that Cincinnati has a really good shot of ending up pulling off the upset.
Who do you got winning?
I think because of my love for Utah football and just my overall undying, unyielding support for Kyle Whittingham and I want to see them at least play in one conference title game. I'm gonna pick Cincinnati. I don't feel good about it, but like it's selfishly to watch as I see Kyle Whittingham potentially go to a college football playoff game. Like that's what it comes down to.
Cole Thompson picking the upset, Cincinnati at home. Man, the keys to the game for BYU, like you said, establish the running game, man. I mean, 21st in rushing offense in the sport, second in the Big 12. I think if BYU can slow that down, Cincinnati can slow that down, like you said, that's impressive. It really is. Combined 17 total touchdowns from LJ Martin and Bear Bachmeier. Insane. On the flip side, BYU's going to slow their running game down. BYU's 41st in rushing defense in the sport, but they're also 4th in the conference. So they can do that because I know Cincinnati's got a good rushing offense. We're about to get into that here in a little bit. They should be fine in this ball game. Also win the time of possession battle. They're 15th in time of possession, and they're 2nd in the Big 12. If you can hold on to the ball, and here's the deal. Here's a big thing. Cincinnati has an issue with this. They get destroyed in the time of possession battle.
Yeah.
They have gotten destroyed all year in the time of possession battle. I think that could be a big issue and a big key for BYU in this one. Cincinnati's keys, protect the football. They had 2 turnovers versus Arizona. 2 interceptions by Brendan Sorsby. That's a no because BYU, if I'm not mistaken, are number 1 in interceptions in the Big 12. So that's a no-go on that one. Establish the running game for Cincinnati, 22nd in rushing offense in college football, and 3rd in the Big 12. And look, Utah had trouble with Cincinnati when they were running the football. Utah had trouble when Cincinnati would go, and I said this when I was covering the game. I said that it's looking like Cincinnati's having a big issue stopping Utah's rushing offense, and I said that was going to be a problem for Cincinnati. I also said on the flip side, I said it's looking like Utah's having a little bit of trouble stopping Cincinnati's rushing offense. So if Cincinnati can get into a groove running the football, I think they could be fine in this game as well. And then get BYU's offense off the field as much as you can. Limit the time of possession. You got to win that battle. That's a huge key in this game for me. Who do I have winning this ball game? I'm taking BYU, man. I'm sorry. I cannot go against BYU right now. I think, especially with that key in the time of possession, I think they're going to stay on the field for as long as they can, and they're going to convert on 3rd down as much as they can. I don't think Cincinnati's going to have an answer later in the game, especially. I'm taking BYU. I think it's going to be a 35-24 game. BYU 35, Cincinnati 24, and I think BYU wins it on the road. Pitt and Georgia Tech, man. That's an interesting ball game. Georgia Tech's a 2.5-point favorite. Pitt's 7-3 at Georgia Tech, and it is 9-1 for Georgia Tech. Here's the deal. My whole thing was last week was I didn't think they were in the right mentality to play Notre Dame. Pitt wasn't. I think the press conference got under my skin, obviously, but I think it really got to the players in a way. I really do. It's not like they can put up 100 on us, and it's not going to matter. We're going to just go out there. As long as we win our ACC games, we're going to be fine. And then they got beat pretty good. So I'll start with you. Too low of a spread, or is it, could it be higher? I mean, who do you have winning the ball game overall? What's your analysis?
I don't really feel either way about the spread. I just want to see Georgia Tech be able to kind of get back to its playing ways because they did not look great in the first half at all against Boston College. Felt like Boston College was going to run away with it, and then lo and behold, you have Haynes King bail you out of trouble. The thing that I really want to see in this game is can anyone other than Haynes King be your hero? Like at this point, can they be your hero? Because if you can, it makes it a little bit more easy. Defensively, this is a team that I think does a good job of limiting deep shots downfield. There are some faults to them at times. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback. Again, you got a freshman that is making his, 5th start of the season. Part of the thing that really helped out a team like Notre Dame was being able to pressure the quarterback into throwing into double coverage. It led to turnovers, led to a big pick 6. So I think that those are going to be some keys. I think if you are kind of Pitt in this game, unload the kitchen sink. I know you want to save some stuff for a team like Miami, because why wouldn't you want to save some stuff for a team like Miami? You get an opportunity to go send your playoff hopes very much still alive by going to Charlotte and keeping the ACC title dreams intact. But it doesn't happen if you lose this game. It's a moot point. And by the way, with a win, Georgia Tech clinches its spot in the ACC title game because their next game is against Georgia in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, which is stupid for a lot of different reasons, but we won't get into that for a minute.
Yeah.
So this is their last conference game. So this would allow them to be able to say, we have one loss at conference play. We've done enough. We punch our ticket. I think Bobby Dodd Stadium, it's a day that you're going to be honoring seniors in their last home matchup. I think that also just the fact that you have a quarterback that is very much still in the Heisman hunt. If they can get anything going on the ground, if they can really get back to doing what they've been all year with Hosley, with Jamal Haynes, if they can do those things, I really do think that this is going to be a moot point, and that much like you talked about when it came to the matchup for Notre Dame, the mindset's not going to be there to take down Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Pitt's keys to me are simple. I mean, yeah, mentally, they got to be mentally prepared. But, I mean, you got to figure out a way to contain Haynes King. Because, my goodness, man, that dude is a machine. He really is. Third in rushing, sixth in passing in the conference. Dude, Buster Faulkner is doing a tremendous job utilizing Haynes King at quarterback. He's doing a phenomenal job. Forced turnovers for Pitt. I think that's a big thing. You got to get the ball out of Georgia Tech's hands, win the third down battle as well. Here's an interesting stat. You're 0 for 13 in third down versus Notre Dame. Whew, that's 0%, my friend. That's not going to win you any ball games. Can they at least convert and keep everything going and keep, Georgia Tech's defense on the field? For the key for me for Georgia Tech is this simple. Establish the running game, 257 total rushing yards versus Boston College. Yes, forced turnovers. And last but not least, I think minimizing the penalties would be great. I mean, 8 penalties for 84 yards versus Boston College. And like you said, overall, the main thing is just can we get back to playing a little bit of who we are? Can we get back to being Georgia Tech football this year, right? I think that's the main thing. Who do I got winning this ball game? Give me Georgia Tech. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to go more than 2 points in this game. I think they're going to cover. I would think it's going to be about a 31-21 type game. I think Georgia Tech wins 31-21 in this ball game, and 10-point win, and gets them ready for a showdown against the Dogs in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which you are you love that. I know you're loving it. I see it on your face. You love it, guys. I'm messing with Cole.
I'll leave right now. I won't even do the rest of it. How dare me say. Don't say blasphemous things, Joel. We don't do that on a Thursday. We don't say that ever, but we definitely don't say that on a Thursday in week 13 of college football. That's what
absolutely no. It shouldn't be a thing, guys. It should be a home and home. They should be in Bobby Dodd Stadium right now is where they should be, honestly. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Georgia Tech gets the win, 31-21. 2 more games will wrap up. You mentioned this one. We've been talking about this one. Missouri and Oklahoma. Missouri 7-3. Oklahoma's 8-2 rather. Excuse me. And do or die for Oklahoma. I believe they're a favorite. As far as I know, they're a favorite to win this game.
Yeah.
What's your analysis on this game? Who do you got?
Can you slow down Ahmad Hardy? It feels very cut and dry because we don't know what's going to happen with Bo Pabula. There was a report that came out and said he was back at practice today. Matt Zenitz from CBS Sports reported that they're going to try to see if he's good to go for this matchup. And I mean, they want to see him go because if you want to play spoiler for a team that you used to face off against in the Big 12. And for those of you that don't know, it's not the same level of border war when it comes to Kansas and Mizzou. There is no love lost between these two programs. And they'll lie to you and they'll say, oh, we don't view them as a rival. Okay, well, the way that you talk on Twitter and on message boards material, you are very much rivals. So, I think that when it comes down to the fact that you don't know what's going to be Bo Pabula, this is the Ahmad Hardy show. Can you slow down Ahmad Hardy if you are Oklahoma? For, I think, Mizzou, you got to make Geometry Beach through the air. I think what's really interesting is that they can, but, nobody talks about Mizzou and what good job of a defense they've had this year. Mizzou's defense has gone from being a team that was very, 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 very good underneath Blake Baker, and then Corey Batoon comes on in, and they're a top 30 unit a season ago. Okay, well, they lose a lot of players, and they bring in some in the transfer portal, but they lose a lot, and it's okay, well, what happens now? Well, they get better. They actually get better. They're top 30 in scoring. They're top 10 against the run. They're top 15 in pass coverage. They're top 10 on third down. They do everything extremely well. But if you can just make John Mateer beat you through the air, you can also force a lot of turnovers. You can go ahead and have some short field position. The other thing that I'm really paying attention to in this game, Joel, I want to see special teams. Yeah. And I know that most people don't look at special teams that way, and I get it. But let me explain. There have been 3 kickers for Missouri this year that have made at least a field goal attempt. They are 75% when it comes to field goal percentage made. They have one kick over 50 yards. Tate Sandell makes a 50-yard kick once a week. Like, the field positioning on punt returns and special teams and forcing turnovers are all going to be really big. But what I really do look at, I look at getting into position to allow your kicker to make points. Like, this could end up being a 15-0 game, Oklahoma. And it wouldn't shock me because I trust their kicker. And I think that's why they're going to win this game is Tate Sandell.
Oklahoma wins with Tate Sandell, probably kicker of the year. Honestly, I mean he's automatic, man. He's a weapon, dude. He really is. And I know the pants are a little bit too short, but we won't talk about that. I mean, I know Kirk Herbstreit talked about that the other day, but we won't get into that. I listen. Is he making the field goals? That's all I'm saying. Is he making it? He is. He's making it. So we don't need to talk about his attire. Missouri's keys are simple. Before we get into a whole different conversation about fashion, this is college football. Establish the running game, and if you're Mizzou, sixth in rushing offense in the sport, man, you're first in the SEC. Ahmad Hardy's first in college football. That's the main game plan is just use Ahmad Hardy. And I knew he was going to be legit at Missouri. I had a feeling, and it's not a shock what he is doing because he's a madman on the ground. You win the time of possession battle, man. You're 14th in time of possession. You're second in the conference. I think if you keep their defense on the field, I know they're a good defense, but if you get them tired enough, maybe we'll start to see a little bit of an upset kind of brew here a little bit, maybe. But is it an upset? Who knows? Protect the football. 2 turnovers versus Mississippi State, but Oklahoma also snagged 3 turnovers versus Alabama and capitalized 17 points off of them. So protect the ball. The Alabama game. You should be watching it. Okay, we're going to play some clean football here. That worries me a little bit. So protect the football. Oklahoma's keys are simple. I think you need to keep dominating the red zone, man. You keep being perfect in the red zone. You're tied first. Interesting team here. Eastern Michigan in college football and being first in red zone efficiency. Come on, man. Just keep scoring, and you should be fine. Field goals, touchdowns, whatever. Just keep being perfect. Slow down the running game. Fourth in rushing defense in the sport. You're also first in the conference. That's going to be the battle right there. Ahmad Hardy versus that Oklahoma rushing defense. I think that's the key, the biggest key right there. Can Ahmad Hardy run on this rushing defense, or can they slow him down? I think that's the big one right there. Finally, if Bo Privila doesn't return, make Missouri one-dimensional. I think that's the biggest one right there. Make him one-dimensional, and if he does, bear with me, force turnovers. I think Bo Privila has had a problem turning the football over. And I think if you're Oklahoma, you're going to want to capitalize on that. So turn the ball over if he's playing. And I mean, even if Zollers tries to turn the ball over, I'm not saying that, but make him one-dimensional because they don't throw as effective when Zollers is in there than with Privula. Who do I have winning this ball game? I have Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's going to keep going. It's a do-or-die mentality. I think they get this game, unfortunately, because I think this is going to – or this is not even a Pigskin Frenzy game next week, but I think OU – wins this, they're most likely in. And a lot of people are going to say, what about LSU? I don't really favor LSU in that game next week, even if OU wins. So give me OU in this game. I think it's going to be probably a little bit low scoring. I think 24-17. Right? I mean, really, it's high school, medium scoring, I guess, rather. 24-17, rather. I mean, Oklahoma 24, Mizzou 17. I think they get enough, they win, and it's late. It's going to be close, but Oklahoma wins this ball game. USC at Oregon.
Yeah.
I see it on your face. You're like, oh no. Last but not least.
I don't have a good. Here's the thing. I don't have a good gauge. Like, both of them need it completely. Because it's like, for one, you need it because if you're 9-3, I don't think that's good enough to get you in the playoff this year. I just don't.
Right.
But for the other one, you're 10-2, but what's your win? Like with all these 10-2 teams, what's the win? Because I get it, brand carries a lot of weight, but when you have a lot of good brands that are all at the forefront of this conversation, and because they made the change, what is it? What's the win that separates you? So they both need it for completely different reasons.
Yeah. They really do. USC at Oregon, 8-2 USC. Oregon's 9-1. 3:30 Eastern kick, 2:30 Central. Is it going to be raining? Who knows? It's going to be supposed to be cloudy. Who freaking knows? That's all I got to say. Who knows? It's going to be an interesting game. I believe Oregon's the favorite in this one. It's very close, though. I think the spread's real low. Man, like you said, you don't have a gauge in this one, but we're going to try. It's our last game before we wrap up. Who do you have? What's your analysis?
Okay, for number one, I need the sass of Decorian Moore and really everyone else that's been injured for Oregon the last few weeks. Like Kenyon Sadiq came back in that game against Minnesota last week, and he was awesome. You saw a lot of Dante Moore making some good plays and some really, really good, tough throws last week. So I think that's going to help him out in a lot of ways to where, you've already played with confidence, games at Autzen Stadium. So another big benefactor. Number one, can you establish the run early and win the time of possession? I think that the stat line that I'm going to be very interested in seeing is time of possession first half by Oregon. Like if Oregon can put pressure on a team that already has a very good up-tempo approach in USC and then utilize that to their advantages by making them maybe only have the ball for 2 or 3 drives. I think that could be a pretty good way of saying, hey, we have 21 points, they have 10. Like, we're just going to play the slow game and be able to win that from that standpoint. Can you pressure Jaden Mayava into making some ill-advised throws at wrong times? And honestly, if you make them win, can you make them win on the ground? Like, a lot of teams are like, oh, we want to see the quarterback test us. Like, we want to see quarterback be able to go beat us through the air and show why he's elite. This is not one of those games. I think that Jaden Mayava is a very solid quarterback. I don't think that he's an elite quarterback, but very solid, very much a high name that has a good ceiling and a good fit for Lincoln Riley's system. But I look at what Mekhi Lemon is, and I look at what you see from Jacoby Lane. I look at this wide receiver course in general, and I'm saying to myself, if I can take away all those receivers and make King Mack and make this running attack beat us on the ground, if I lose that game, I lose that game because that's on me. But we're a top 10 run defense in the country. On top of that, we're a top 10 red zone. I mean, we're a top 15 red zone defense in the country because we don't ever let them get into the red zone. We do a lot of good things behind closed doors that allow us to win with physicality, and then we show up with the finesse. We got 4 different running backs that can all make plays in the open field. I think that this is what it really comes down to is can you make sure that USC, a tempo team, plays with even more up-tempo. Like, they are putting it into psycho mode, full throttle, trying to go ahead and run this thing, and it just doesn't work. I think that USC's done a lot of good things this year. I think Oregon's just a little bit better team. I pick Oregon.
Yeah, that's a good pick, man. That's a good pick. I'm going to try my best to do this and do it right. Here we go. USC's keys, man. I mean, slow down their running game. I mean, they're 8th in the sport, 2nd in the Big Ten. I think if you run this football, if you're slow down their running game, if they try to run the ball, you slow it down, you should be fine. Force turnovers. Here's a big one for me, man. I think avoid a slow start. I think they had a slow start versus Iowa last week. Did they come back? Yes. Oregon's different. I think, and at home, Oregon's different. Even though, let's scratch out Indiana. Let's not talk about that game. But Oregon is different at home. And I think they need to avoid a slow start. For Oregon, contain their passing offense. I mean, 9th in passing offense in the sport, 1st in the Big Ten. I think they know how to throw the ball around with Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. I think they know how to throw the ball around, man. They're really good. Got, with those 2 receivers. Like you said, he's not an elite quarterback, but he's a good enough quarterback to get them the ball. So contain that. And contain their playmakers, especially in the passing offense. Establish the run game for Oregon. 62nd in rushing defense is USC in college football. 10th in the Big Ten. So if you can just run the football and just smash mouth football, just run it down their throat, I think you should win this ball game and then win the line of scrimmage battle. I think the big key for me is who's going to be more physical in this game, honestly. Who's going to be more physical. And it's going to be a very big key for me in this one between the both teams. Who do I have winning this ball game? Well, I've had Oregon as a game, or a Pigskin Frenzy game, a couple of times. I picked Oregon to blow out Indiana before I even, then that's when I really got sold on Indiana. I was like, okay, Indiana went in and beat them by 10. Okay, shame on me, Joel. Everybody makes mistakes. I picked them to beat Iowa, and they beat Iowa. Thought it was going to be close. I think with the circumstances, because it's been kind of up in the air for me with Oregon, with the circumstances, I think Oregon's going to find a way to win this game. It's going to be close. But would it shock me if I got this one wrong? No. I think Oregon will win. I think USC will cover. I think it's going to be a 27-24 game. Oregon 27, USC 24. I am going to be on a little bit of an alert with this because I could get it wrong. That's all I'm going to say. I could get this game wrong, but I got Oregon winning the ball game, and they march on. And then, well, here comes the M logo in the maize and blue, maybe. So, Cole, thank you for joining us, man. Do you have any final thoughts before we go into Week 13?
We need to talk a lot more about the Penn State job opening. Like, I understand that there's a lot of people that are looking at Lane Kiffin and how his decision will alter a lot of different coaching searches. But, like, Penn State, I think right now we still forget is a premier job in college football if run properly. And
Yeah.
what James Franklin was able to accomplish for most of his tenure there was really promising. Yes, they didn't win anything other than one Big Ten title, but in the 12-team college football playoff era, they would have been in the playoff 7 times. They have a high expectation of winning and sustaining culture there. We need to spend more time on who is going to be the head coach of the Nittany Lions moving forward, because of that's a hire that could really alter the way, in both good and bad, of what the Big Ten looks like. Because part of the thing that we hear from right now is like how the SEC is overrated and how the SEC, we talk about how the teams are so close. Well, right now, the problem is that you gained a really good team recently in Indiana, kind of turned the corner with Cincinnati, but you've lost a good team right now in Penn State. So whoever they bring on in, it's going to be really intriguing to see how that domino effect changes the way that we view some college football jobs. I just hope that we don't forget about that job being as prominent as it is right now.
Well, real quick before we wrap up officially, who do you think lands that job? And not only that, do you think that the hire is going to be better than James Franklin?
No, I mean, I don't personally. Because honestly, I get why you fired James Franklin. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't understand why you didn't do it. But you already are setting the bar so high to bring in a coach that you don't know. Like, I mean, I've heard people say Kalen DeBoer is going to be the guy. Like, they're like Alabama with the stress of being down in Tuscaloosa and going 9-3 and being on the hot seat. He'll just hightail it up to State College where 9-3 will be always good enough to be at least in the conversation. I don't think that's going to happen. If I was Pat Kraft, I would hire Bob Chesney from JMU. That would be my first phone call. I would say, you're a Pennsylvania kid. I know you know how to build programs. I know you know how to have sustainability. Because if you look at his track record, much like Cignetti, much like DeBoer, all he does is win. He's won everywhere from D2 to Regina Slav to Holy Cross to now JMU. All he does is win. And he's usually winning at private institutions, which means players are trying to come to his school because they want to continue their playing career while getting an education. Like, that's what it is. So imagine giving him some resources to be able to build a team that is still very much in that physicality, win in the trenches, ground and pound mentality, where you're going to get a lot more transfer portal players that look at this job as an absolute pipeline opportunity. And I'm not saying that that JMU is like this pipeline school that is just punching out future top 10 coaches in the sport. But we saw it work with one guy in Cincinnati. He's been awesome at Indiana. He's killed at Indiana. We're watching as JMU right now was kind of getting the short end of the stick when it comes to college football playoff rankings because it feels like it's the AAC or bust.
Yeah.
They're still very much in the hunt for a playoff bid. And I think that that's because of what Bob Chesney is as coach. That'd be my first phone call.
Absolutely. He's a good coach, man. He's done wonders since taking over Cignetti at James Madison. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Man, Cole Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Guys, we're out of time. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at pigskin_frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. There's the website as well, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. Guys, we could not do this show without you guys. We could not do this show without our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We give him all the praise for bringing us into college football media and just delivering us Pigskin Frenzy and making us the host of Pigskin Frenzy. It is wonderful, and we cannot be more thankful enough. We give him all the praise. Guys, get ready for Tuesday. That's all I got to say, because we're going to recap Week 13. We're going to have the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 14. Get ready for Showdown Saturday coming up, and we're going to have a big week. So enjoy your weekend of these games. That's Cole Thompson from SEC Unfiltered. That's the Bear. I'm Joel Norris signing off. We'll see you then. Guys, for everybody out there, please and always stay the course.